engineer, and today's talk is about Azure Front Door. We're testing the Azure Front Door with an AWS Lambda script with PowerShell. So we didn't write anything with code, only PowerShell. So the agenda is, what is our problem? What need we to solve? And why we use these technologies? And I will give a brief front door, what is front door and why front door. And then I will show you my test script that I want to deploy and my deploy script, and then wrap up. So what was the problem we want to solve? We have an application here, 2 rating, that has multi-region in Australia, in US, lots of region in US, Europe, Canada, and we need to find a solution that that our payment partners hit my traffic manager and go to the appropriate region. So we used the traffic manager on Azure, but we had a lot of problems. So we closed all of these instances, and we had only 1 instance per region, per continental, not region, sorry. So with Front Door, we hoped that we can scale up more and use everywhere around the world. And the good part is with Front Door is an edge solution. It's like a satellite around the Earth. And if you hit the front door, it will direct you to the nearest location. I said, okay, so that's a good thing, but we need to test this and how we can test this. So that was our problem that we want to solve. So why? Why are we using Front Door? Yeah, Front Door, that was the case we want to solve. We want a global traffic manager that runs quite well and direct us to the appropriate endpoint. That's good. Okay, so how we can test this? Obviously, I can't do this testing from Azure because I want to test Azure. So I need to be outside Azure in some cloud somewhere. And we came up with AWS Lambda functions. So, or the equivalent is like the Google functions. Or I don't know, we can create a container, run a container, make the testing. Or we can do, I don't know, you can use the test tools that have on AWS or on Google or somewhere else. But we see that we can put a PowerShell script inside our AWS Lambda. And I said, okay, that's good, because I newly learned how we use the PowerShell. My teachers are here, Martinez and Daniel. They taught me, oh, you can do this with PowerShell. Okay, that's good. So I can use AWS Lambda with PowerShell. That's a good thing for us. I said, okay, we don't need to write a code. We don't need containers or in different regions or other things. So yeah, use PowerShell. And I heard this a lot, like everyone say the same thing. Oh, I'm doing this automation because I'm so lazy, right? So for me, it's the same case. I don't want to run containers everywhere and say, okay, I want to test, for example, I want to test from UK, the front door, or I want to test from somewhere else, but every time I need to run something, need to touch something, right? So it says PowerShell is good because I'm lazy. And I know all of these tools was created by lazy people, not like infrastructure as a code. I don't think someone says, okay, we need to do this because it's reliable, good. But in the essence, it's because of the lazy people like me. Yeah, and I don't know if you watched The Big Lebowski, but that dude is a lazy guy. So I have the same mindset with him. I said, okay, do this with PowerShell with minimum keystrokes and run the scripts, because I've done this test for 3 months. I'm doing this testing because I want to test the front door, for example, switch off one of the services and say, so how does it work? Will it go to the right place, or will it go somewhere else, right? And if you don't believe me, that's created by the lazy pupils. Say, Bill Gates said that I choose lazy person to do the hard jobs because the lazy person will find an easy way to do it, right? So we know that that's proved, for me at least. So the first thing is from Azure Front Door. If you don't know what Azure Front Door is, it's a traffic manager basically. But don't be confused. Azure has a traffic manager too. You know the best naming is from Microsoft, like Azure DevOps, traffic manager. It's some kind of a traffic manager and runs on layer 7. You can do much more things besides the traffic manager, the actual traffic manager. You can have front-end hosts. You can put your domain, and you can create a backend pool. And the best part of the backend pool is it's not only runs on Azure. You can put Google things, because I don't want to put everything on Azure because I had an issue. Azure was gone and my service was gone. So I want to put something on Google and use the front door for doing this. That's why I choose Azure Front Door. And we have rules. It's a few basic things, like with Azure Front Door, you have session affinities. If you use cookies, you can have a good routing things. But in our case, we don't use cookies. So we have lots of issues with Front Door, actually. And you can create firewalls. That's a good thing. And in the backend, you can see I can use an app service, I can use cloud services, storages, and the best part, custom hosts. And there are lots of configuration here. You can use the ports, you can use the priorities, you can weight your traffic, and you can have load balancing rules, like whatever you do, whatever you want. And as updating about the rules, you can have URL writing, you can cache your website. It's kind of a CDN at the same time. So yeah, I said, okay, front door is a good thing. Let's go with front door. By the way, we tested also traffic manager and the other load balancing tools. So the good part, like I said, we have one testing script. That's a very basic testing script. It's a PowerShell, and it tests out my URL here. And I put inside the header, I put some information that I need to, I need to monitor, because I want to see that if this one hits my web page or my service, my front door, and when you go to the front door, are we hitting the right backend endpoint? So I write a basic script. First things, you need to put this on top of the on your script, because Lambda is looking for that one. If you don't put this, the Lambda script will never work. And after you deploy the code, you create a file and says, please put this on top of your script. So okay, I create a do while loop, and this tool will run forever. That's the point. It's like a ping test. I already called it a ping test because it's indefinitely running. That's what I want. I don't want it interrupted, because I want to test my front door, and then I will disable a few services. I will run this for hours perhaps, and the Lambda function gives you an option. You can put timeouts. So this is a good test for me. So I invoked my URL. I put some XML things. That's standard thing probably. And I put a header, and then I will run this script until I will stop it. I put also a try catch here, but I cheated because I don't want it to fail. So I kind of cheated. Perhaps I shouldn't do this way, but you know, I'm new, so I can. So my deploy script, that's the good, sorry, yeah.
Does that testing? Does that not create a DDoS?
Yeah, probably. But we don't want to go there because my thing is I want to test this, and probably in one point, I never get this issue. AWS should normally say, okay, what are you doing? You should tell me this, but you never done this. So, and it didn't break anything, so I didn't leave this like this. But yep.
Maybe not completely related to the script, but front door, does it provide any caching? So is there any chance that when you'll be running the script, you wouldn't be actually going to your backend, but triggering the cache?
Now, the caching mechanism works a bit different. Today I had a call with Microsoft, the product team with front door, and the caching is like a CDN caching. It's more like the pictures and other stuffs. It doesn't cache my script. And every time I'll say that this will hit every time my backend. I will show you the logs, but every time I hit my thing, I run this for hours, and so actually it's hit my backend. So yeah, it's no caching. That's Azure Front Door is still a baby, so probably didn't figure out that yet.
What is the default request per second that you get off a simple script like this on AWS Lambda?
Well, I didn't look for the request per second, but it was very quick actually. That was the weird thing, because this was a very basic script. So the request per second, it's not by second, it's by milliseconds. So actually I didn't look for the times. My tester guy looked at the times and noted it, but I didn't care about that stuff. I care about running the script and creating this environment. So my deploy script is actually very easy. And at the first time, I wrote this script and sent to Daniel, and Daniel said, "What's that? You have lots of, what's that? For each loops and other stuffs?" I said, "Yeah, it's a manual test." I said, "No, you shouldn't have put lots of for each loops." I said, "Okay, I will change that. I will change that later." So the first thing is, I want to go step by step. That's my pad, where my script is. And I have a timeout function for my Lambda function. So each time I can change my timeouts for how much time I want to run it, and put it here. Perhaps I can do something different, but that was the easy one for me. And you need to create a IAM role on AWS side, because you need to have some permissions for this, for running. And that thing runs a Lambda function and write on the logs. So I give them permission. And you also need access key for running these things. First time I put it here and say, okay, when I share this or when I put this in GitHub, so I don't want this. So I put in a global environment inside my Mac and run it from there. And the thing is, I needed some environments. So I want to do this test from US West, US East, I don't know, from Australia, from Canada, from London. So I created a hash table. So I put the naming and the region. And that is if I want to test with multiple environments at the same time. But sometimes I only want to test London and see how London works. When I close the service, what's the next step? Where will this go? Which endpoint I will hit? So I also created a single Lambda function. So I choose this, hit F8, and that's it. Then the next thing is you need to install a module. AWS has PowerShell modules. For example, for that, you need the AWS Lambda PS Core and the .NET Core module. And the weird thing is with Lambda, when you deploy this code, it's not a PowerShell actually. It wraps it in a .NET Core package, and it's actually a .NET Core application. But I don't care. I don't know .NET so much, so for me, yeah.
Can you please elaborate what do you mean by it's not PowerShell, but it's wrapped in
I will show you.
Okay.
So I imported the module, standard thing, and then I will begin writing my functions. first thing, it wasn't function. It was like only lines. But then again, Daniel told me, oh, function is a good thing. Use it. Okay. So I put my function here. Here, I set a default region. So in Azure, if you use Azure, you don't have a default region like this. But on AWS, you need to define a default region every time because every region is a different, I don't know what they called for that. It's a different entity like. So every time if you want to install something, first you need to put the default region. Normally, if I work only with one region, I can put this in my environment. But this is not the case because I want to install lots of these different regions. So you put your default region, you create a template, that's a basic template, and then I publish my code. So my next function is I need to set up a timeout, right? I want to change the timeout from time to time and see the different timing. I want testing the health probes on front door. So I need to set up a timeout. So it's a basic, simple line. You can choose your function name and put your timeout here and update this function. The next function is invoke the code. Very easy, very basic. Invoke my function and then show me the properties. If it runs or what the name it is. And the function is getting me all the logs. If I have logs, you have the CloudWatch logs, get me the logs, write the logs, and show me the events. By the way, if I'm going very quickly, stop me with this. So the next one, see all the resources. Sometimes I need to see how many resources I have installed already because perhaps I only want to run in one region. And if I run this script with all regions, I need to change this, right? So I create another function for this, get me all the function list, and get me all the logs. And at least the last one, I created another function for deleting all the resources. Because with the Lambda with AWS, I don't like the AWS this part. You need to define everything, whatever you created. It's not like on Azure, you can delete a resource group and you can delete everything inside it, right? With this, you need to define everything what you want to delete. So it's not, we don't have a resource group on AWS. Please don't kill me about saying that. So the other thing is, so I had a lot of for each loops, and Dana told me you need to solve these things. So I put it in a switch and say, okay, run this switch every function I have. And because I'm lazy, I only want to do this in a few keystrokes. I put everything in a switch and call the switches. That's easy for me. So I created a menu for that. I found a nice menu and put everything inside it and run the script. So that's my switch. It's so nice. So when I run this, you see my menu. And I only put things. If I want to create something, hit 1. If you want to execute the script, hit 2. If you want to list all the resources, hit 3. How easy is that, right? So here it is, your question. When I publish this code, normally it's only one PowerShell script, right? He put it in a .NET container, in a .NET, and wrapped this PowerShell script in it. I don't know what it is actually. And it sent a lot of things and said, okay, what's going on? It's a .NET Core application. Run my PowerShell script. I said, well, good. I don't care. If it's running, leave it like this if it runs. So when I run the script, he shows me how I've created that function for you. That's my function name, my regions, blah, blah, blah. Okay, good. And then you can see my function is there. So I used PowerShell to deploy my PowerShell script to AWS Lambda. Good. And it's a .NET Core application, by the way. It's not a PowerShell script anymore. So when I execute the script, give me this, and say, okay, it's running. Good. It's simple, right? And that's a CloudWatch log, and I can see here's my duration. It runs for 10 seconds, and it begins with here. You can see all of the information I want, the size of the memory, blah, blah, blah. And one of my menu things is list all the resources. That's my function and my log. I also am so lazy, I go to every time to CloudWatch and get the log, so I created a function for this. List my function, I can see my duration, my script is running here. Okay, good. And that is our side. We have a monitor tool, and it's always looking for my information. So I run this script, and it hits that web page. Here I can see which region it hit. I make a black box here. I don't want to reveal my URLs, but I can see my IP address, where it comes from. So I can see, oh, okay, it comes from this IP, and this, when I go to IP locations thing, and I can see, oh, it's come from London. Oh, good. We're in the right place. It comes from London, goes to London. That's a good thing. So, can I improve the script? Let's wrap up. Can we improve the script? Yeah, a lot. But, nah, not me. It's not for me. It's not broken, so don't fix it, please. I thought this was a German thing, but it's not. Apparently, it's from a US guy told this thing. So in the future, that's my wish. What I want to say is that, you know the movie from Neo? Neo someone put a cassette tape, and then suddenly he knows Kung Fu, right? I want this. Install a module. Please run remote PowerShell from my brain. Please. I can do this. Keystroke 7, keystroke 2. No. And then I will know PowerShell. So that's it.
Any questions?
Please, not hard ones.
How were you able to test that it wasn't working for any false results? You've tested that everything's okay. You assume it's okay. How do you know it works as you expect?
Yeah, the first thing is I only want to test some functionalities for front door. So, like how the help probes works. Because if you change a small thing on Azure Front Door, it breaks. It makes different behaviors. If you change the priority, it says it goes somewhere else. It should be go somewhere else. But for example, if you want the load balancing and there is a latency, if you're not putting 0, 0 means go in that region. But if you put something else, it goes round robin and make, I don't know, some of my things end up in Australia. Actually, it should go in London. And that test is only for a few things. But after that, when we put it on live, I see a whole different world. Because one of my companies in US, the payment partner use Anycast. So.
But do you have tests for the script to prove that there's a false, that things have in fact gone down?
I have different tests for running the things, but with this test, no. It's a simple ping test, actually. It's only ping the endpoint and see if the endpoints go to the right place, if I close it, if it goes somewhere else, where it goes.
Yeah, it's like maybe just for me to clarify. In a script, you pointed out that you have forced it always to be true.
Yeah.
So in this case, if, for example, you brought all the backend for a region down and script actually failed,
yep,
it will still return true because you forced it. So how would you know that it's actually failed?
The thing is, why I put this true, I don't want them fail. I want them wait until the next region, because you know the help probe,
okay,
how this works. You send the ping to an endpoint, and the help probe says, okay, this is not working anymore, so I will redirect your traffic here. So I don't want them to fail. I want them, in this case, I want them always true. So actually, I miswrite this code. It was for something else, but I said, oh, we don't need to write it again. Change that thing to true, and run it like this. So the false positive will have false positive, but my intention here was only test front door. Thank you.
How do you know that, or how do you know where, if you deploy something as an AWS Lambda, does it behave the same, does it make requests in the same way that client requests come in? Did you discuss with your team the difference between a client request and an AWS Lambda which was initiated inside your own network?
For that kind of things, that we wrote different tests for this. It was not that for that one, but we created some different tests of how it will work, like if it's a request from a client. But it's not that test. That one is actually a very simple test. Ping the page and see what's going on. That's it.
How did you find Lambda to deal with? Sort of learning it? Was the documentation good? Was running Lambda functions with PowerShell something you picked up easily, or was it something?
It was actually very easy because how they taught me, it was actually very good. I learned how to get help.
I'm sure we can all have your time to learn that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for offering that. Thank you.
Yeah, if you catch them.
But you thought it wasn't too bad to learn how to use Lambda?
It was very easy actually, because when I go to the help page and run all the script and see what's going on under the hood, it wasn't so hard actually to run the scripts because it has a few parameters, and when you run it, it runs very easily. Because all of these things, all of the codes, I found that, for example, you need to create a template. So the first thing is you need to list all the templates, and you need to know what template is actually. So I look for the AWS PowerShell documentation was not so good, but Get Help is your friend. Helped me a lot.
Any more questions? Thank you.